This is the Orlando Sentinel's editorial board interview with the candidates for the mostly Osceola-anchored State Senate District 25. And we are joined today by Peter Vivaldi, who is a Republican challenging Senator Victor Torres, whom we're counting as the incumbent, even though he's changing district numbers. And thanks to redistricting this year, we're going to be spending and he's a Democrat, we're going to be spending about half an hour talking about some of the issues in this race. And just to let people know, this is not a debate. It is an interview that gives each candidate a chance to talk about issues and priorities for our district and for our state. So I'm going to dive right in with a question that touches on the only thing that legislators are required by law to do, which is write an annual budget. And starting next year, what was a surprisingly much easier task is going to become much more difficult because the massive flow of federal money that has brought Florida's budget up over $110 billion is going to start drying up. How does Florida cope with the loss of the federal money that's been coming to us as part of the COVID Relief Act? And where do you see the toughest decision points? And Mr. Vivaldi, we can start with you. Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this board. Real quickly, when you're talking about the budget, we could be here for hours talking about how we're going to handle this. But quickly, what I will say is that, due to the COVID, the last couple of years, we've had that federal funding that came in through both administrations, and all this money now is going to be gone. The good thing about the state of Florida that we can look at, if we were to look at a positive, is the fact that we do have a surplus, or we have a, super surplus on our side that will help us. Now, how that's going to look like next year, like you said, is going to be very interesting, because there are going to be some budget cuts that are going to need to take place based on the fact of the allocation of funds that were given. So it's hard to replace that kind of money that's coming from the federal government. But I think that because our state it has been open, in the fact that it's been open for business, and also looking at the fact that a lot of folks have moved into the state, that will help some of that tax revenue, and I believe that will continue to grow. But I think it's going to be a challenge up in Tallahassee, just because that amount of money that was brought in. But I believe because we do have that surplus, it won't. I don't believe it's going to hurt us as much as we would normally be held accountable, since we do have that budget surplus here in our state.
Thank you so much, Senator Torres. How do you feel about that?
Yes, thank you for the question. And thank you again to the Sentinel editorial board for having this interview. Let me explain, the COVID relief funds, or what you're alleging to, that is going to phase out next year. You got to remember that the governor sits on reserve funds of over $21 billion. And that's going to generate money in whatever loss that we have from the COVID relief from the federal government. But the federal government will continue to fund other programs and other things that we need to look at. So until we reach that bridge, and we have to see what is available and who sits on the money and where the money needs to go, that's the biggest question, because you can't predict now, because you don't know what's 6 months away from now, what we're going to face as can we face another pandemic? I don't know. Can we face another unemployment debacle? I don't know. And these are things that, as a senator, I've learned that as they come, we need to generate and make sure that we cover all the corners and the needs of our constituents in every manner, in every phase, veterans, seniors, and the whole group of people who need our help. Thank you.
Thank you both. I wanted to attack another issue that's important to all Floridians and up and down the state, and that's affordable housing. Obviously, it's something that's been called, an emergency, a crisis. There's many words for it. And it's something that the legislature has constantly had to deal with on some level, whether it's through Sadowski funds or other methods. I'm wondering, in this next term, what needs to be done? What needs to be done differently? What would you do first when it comes to the first step in attacking the affordable housing issue? And Senator Torres, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you. That's up my alley, the affordable housing. This is something that for the last 10 years, I've been a constant supporter of affordability for our constituents, our working people, our working class. What's happened here in the state of Florida is the Republicans have taken over the Sadowski funds and have used it in their own manner without realizing that the Sadowski funds were meant for one thing, the SHIP program, the CHIP program, and they haven't done it. And the money has gone sideways to other issues when we need affordable housing. Now, affordable housing right now is not sustainable. It's not, the Sadowski fund is not sustainable. We cannot move and give people because the rent is too damn high. And how can the people afford to buy the first time homeowners or renters? Everything is going up. And people can't afford it. And we are, for me, I think out of the box. I think we should start looking at how we can do public housing, the government with private business to regulate, on a pay scale, make it affordable for people. I come from New York, and I know that in New York, we had stabilized rent control apartments. We had built structures that were for seniors, for veterans, for families, for single moms to live at and be affordable where they live. So, and to that, we need to have a wraparound program to make it happen for our constituents when they move into a complex like this, because folks, we are using the money and it's not being used in the manner that it was intended to. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vivaldi, same question.
Sure. Again, a great question. The Sadowski's Fund has always been one of those hot button used on both sides of the aisle for our community. And I appreciate Senator Torres and his 10 years of service. Nothing has happened in affordable housing in 10 years. We are still in the same boat we were 10 years ago we are today. And when we talk about New York, I'm a New Yorker myself, and 1% right now of New York is under what we call that affordable housing, and everything out of that affordable housing then becomes a problem for New Yorkers, and they could tell you that as to the cost of living and how it is. A lot of things have happened over the last couple of years. We can blame the COVID, we can blame whatever. A lot of folks have moved into Florida. We know that a lot of folks from up north and even California have moved to Florida, which has bought up a lot of the housing. And if you don't remember, about a month ago or a couple of months ago, we had a real issue with inventory in homes. Right, the prices were rising because of lack of inventory. And just today, reading an article here locally, written by the Sentinel as well, that seems like the numbers are coming back down to normal. But even with that, inflation is an issue that we don't talk about. The fact that now interest rate went up to 6.01%. So I agree, it's going to be very difficult for people to buy homes with everything that's going on. Now, as far as affordable housing, completely. Do we need to do a public-private partnership? 100%. We need to work with organizations. We can't continue, especially in this district, in the Osceola side, continue to just grow without control. So I would definitely say that that's one of those issues, hot button issues that definitely someone's going to have to do something about, and I believe I can do something with that.
Thank you very much. Another key component of our local economy is the tourism sector. There's been some controversy in recent years over the state's marketing arm, Visit Florida, and its local affiliates. And there's also been some discussion about restrictions on how tourist development tax is spent that drive money toward bigger and bigger convention centers, sports stadiums, and other massive pieces of public infrastructure where communities are struggling for more modest goals like roads, transit, etc. So I'd like to, it's a two-part question. First, if you could tell us, do you think Visit Florida is a worthy investment? And secondly, do you think Florida, for that portion of tourist development tax money that goes to local communities, should consider more flexibility in the way those communities are allowed to spend that money? Okay, and let's start with Mr. Vivaldi.
Thank you. Great question. As far as Visit Florida, we know that Florida has been historically a place for vacationers, entertainment, right here in Central Florida, the beaches, everything that we have. So Visit Florida is a great component to what we do in the state. Now, second to that is our local community. Is our local community really benefiting from that? And my answer is no. I don't believe that we're getting enough out of what we should be getting. Now, when it comes to Visit Florida, the amount of money that is invested in them, I think that needs to be looked at as to how much is being spent to bring tourists to Florida. We know where Florida is, and we know the temperature here, so everybody's pretty much addressing that. But when it comes to local community, I don't know if you saw yesterday's. I saw an article in reference to my district there in Osceola County is the worst transited. It is the worst traffic in the state of Florida. Number one. When you talk about Poinciana Boulevard, you talk about John Young Parkway, you talk about all of that. So when we talk about all these things, it's great that you bring it up because these are the things that affect our local community. When your average salary is just over $40,000 for a family, and they can't even afford to go to a theme park or can't even afford to enjoy their own local community, I think there's something wrong here. I think that there has to be a balance. I think that we can continue to promote Florida as a destination for vacation. But at the same time, we have to figure out those funds and should they be allocated in such a way that they can benefit the locals as well, not just big corporations.
Senator Torres.
I think that the TDT taxes has to be looked at again. I'm a supporter of Visit Florida. I think that Visit Florida brings the tourism that this adds to our economy and makes our economy fruitful and keeps our workers working. I mean, when you're talking about 77,000 workers employed out there in the theme parks and the hotels and the restaurants and everything else included, you have to realize how important it is. And it goes back to it does the TDT taxes go to workers, to affordability, affordable housing. Can we use it for that? I mean, we have the mayor here working on the 1 cent tax for transportation. I come from an area that New York, it's all about mass transit, how we move people around and how we get them off the highways and roads and into mass transit so they can move around easily. You have to take an investment. And I've asked the hotel, the lodging, everybody to realize you need to survey your workers. Are they living good? Are they able to take care of themselves and their families? You know, these are things that affect us as a community. And I think that the dollars that they're making should be used to better the quality of lives of the Central Florida constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to move on to another topic, that being abortion. Obviously, that's been a hot button issue lately with the Supreme Court and the decision to send abortion rulings back to the states. I wonder, from your guys' perspective, how far should the legislature go on legislating abortion, and what do you think should be done with the state's newfound power? And Senator Torres, we'll start with you.
Thank you. This is a huge topic here. This is a woman's choice. I am a supporter of the women's choice. This thing that the legislature, year after year, not just this year alone, but year after year, they have gone after abortion and cutting it down against women's choice and women's rights to have the medical attention that they need. This is now in this bill that was passed on Republican side is solely do not reflect incest or rape. As a retired cop, those are two criminal acts against a woman. And if you're going to tell me that you cut it down to 15 weeks and you're taking away their choice and their right and their families and their priests, because they have a right to choose who and when you want to do this. I think that the bottom line is that this is a real hot topic for women, and looking at their families and saying this shouldn't be touched by government. Government have no right to interfere on a woman's choice and her right, her body, what she does. This is a woman's choice all the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vivaldi.
Thank you for the question. I totally agree with the 15-week plan that the legislator came up, and the governor as well. I don't believe, like my opponent, in abortion on demand. I think that is taking it way out of context of what's going on. And to me, it's really important that we do funding for people that want to do adoption, people who want to have alternatives versus to just abortion. Because if we're going to say we're going to have these children born, then and there's going to be an issue, then we need to find a way as well to support these families, to support these children. And again, that's probably one of the biggest things. To me, I know that when we talk about abortion, it's one of those issues that you're going to hear as a buzz thing out there. It's like the call to action for everyone. But if we're going to call to action, there's a lot of other things too that we need to be focused on. And I believe totally that 15-week ban is the correct way to go. But I also believe that with that comes a responsibility of the state to decide how are they going to help after that amount of time these young ladies or these young families or whoever it is that needs that help. So for me, I totally support the governor's decision on the 15-week ban.
Thank you so much, both of you. Thoughtful questions on a tough issue. And I wanted to kind of take that issue down the line and talk about schools for a little while. Florida is facing what many say is another crisis with a shortage of teachers. And that is directly tied to how Florida funds schools. Where do you think Florida can make changes that better prepare the state to deal with the need to recruit teachers and to do everything else to fulfill the constitutional mandate to deliver a high-quality, free public education for Floridians? And we will start with Mr. Vivaldi.
Thank you for that question. And I'll begin by saying that my wife is a public school teacher. So I know what it is and see what's going on within the public school system here in Orange County specifically. My focus in Tallahassee will be put our kids first and obviously protect the parents' rights. Those are very, very important to me. But the question has more to do with teacher recruitment and what we're doing. Over the years, the teachers, haven't been getting the salary that I believe they should be getting, right? We saw the governor now come up with a plan. I think there's still work to be done there when it comes to tenured teachers as to how we do that. And that's just internally. Now, externally, I'm a bit concerned because in Osceola County, for instance, they were recruiting teachers from Latin America and from other places to come in and teach. And so when we have such a big need like this, I think there has to be more of a push here locally as to what we can do to make sure we're not just recruiting teachers, but we're getting folks interested in the teaching industry, right? To be a teacher, to have the passion to teach. And I think that's one of the things that we lack. I think some folks look at it as a job. I look at it as a career. I know that education has been under attack. I'm a big school choice person, even though I do believe in public school. My children all went to public school. But I also believe that because we have almost 38% of our Hispanic children in the state of Florida that take advantage of the Step Up program and other programs that are necessary. But I think that overall, even though there was a step in the right direction towards the teachers with the salaries, I think there's more that can be done and needs to be done.
Thank you. Senator Torres?
Yes, and that's another hot topic here in Florida, because guess what? The Republicans have attacked not only the teachers, but also the students. Let's face the reality. What is going on in our schools? They don't want them to read the books that the teachers and the schools are certifying. They want to take over what the schools, what the teachers are going to teach. The certification is another problem. 8 out of 10 children in Florida attend public schools. The problem we have in the state is a lot of the money is going to charter schools, which my colleague here is not mentioning, that Republicans push more for charter schools in the funding, and rather than the public schools, taking away money from the public schools. We have a huge issue with, especially in Osceola County, where a lot of these charter schools, they close and they leave the children out in the cold, and they change the name and they reopen under a different name. So it's a game that is being played, and they use the Department of Education as a funnel to get back into the program and get the millions of dollars that are allocated for our schools. I think that the nonprofit charter schools, and I visited one in Ocala, and this one deals with children, babies, and they deal with undocumented children, immigrants who are learning before they go into elementary school. This was awesome. And this is something that I agree, because it's helping the community, the Hispanic community, especially those who work in the agricultural community, who are working to strive to better their lives and their kids' lives. So yes, the funding is not going to our public schools and not helping our teachers with what they're doing against LGBTQ and transgender children. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Chris, if it's okay, I wanted to sneak in with one more question. Just wanted to ask you both. We've covered several hot topics and big issues today. I wondered if there were one or two, just briefly, issues that are specific to your district and specific to your constituents, especially since the district numbers and borders have changed a bit. Just wanted to see if there were one or two that you wanted to touch on and talk about solutions. Senator Torres, let's start with you on that one.
Yes, and thank you for that question. I think one of the concerns that I had, and I voiced my opinion in Tallahassee, when the governor called a special session for redistricting, my concern was that he was going to take away congressional seats from my party, from the Democrats, and he took away from the two Democrats, African-American areas, their seats. But guess what? We were number one here in Osceola and Orange County in the census. We were number one in the state. We were number 3 in the country. And I argued consistently in the chamber, on the Senate floor, this is supposed to be our congressional seat. This one right here, an additional Hispanic seat. But guess what? The Republicans said, no. We're going to move it to Polk County. And that was there at the flags, and they were moving over there to Polk County to add another Republican to the congressional seat because they want to take over. It was something with passion that I said we grew so much in both counties, and we needed the representation. And guess what? They didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to do anything. And my other concern is, and I'll tell you right now, is gun safety. We need to do something about assault weapons and all these issues that are happening across the country, because guys, it's going to affect all of us. It affects our kids. From 1 to 17 age children are subject to gun violence. We need to change that. We need to focus on that. We need to have our families safe, our schools safe. We need to make sure that we are doing the right thing, and mental health issues, folks. Mental health is another big problem here in Florida. We need to address that, and we need not to be the 50th. But then again, the other day I thought, well, guess what? All the southern states are 49, 48, and 50. So they're all competing to be the last one on mental health issues. So we got to change that. And thank you for hearing me.
Thank you for that. And Mr. Vivaldi, what are a couple of issues that you think are specifically important to this district?
Absolutely. Before I do that, the question prior was about teacher recruitment. And all I heard was about books banning, certifications, LGBTQ. I didn't hear anything about how are we going to recruit good teachers into the state of Florida. And I think that's important, those of you who are watching, to understand where I stand with that. And that is a huge important issue. When you ask about what things we can do or what we should be doing, one of the biggest things we have right now is Florida's economic development, right? So I believe that the workforce development, which is our human force, is the most important thing. So when you're talking about what is it that you can do, or what are the hot button issues that I think, listen, career and technical training go hand in hand with what we're going. I'm glad that we can support Visit Florida and all of these great folks that bring great jobs into these hotels, but they're meaningless because they're not paying the wage that our people should be paid. So what we need to do as constituents here, especially in Osceola County, is to work together to make sure that we have economic development, that's workforce development, that's working together, training, make sure that we educate our community in a whole so that we can take ownership of Florida's future. We cannot continue to base just everything on what the economic engine is of tourism. Okay. I love Disney. I love the parks, but that's not enough for us to be able to make a real impact in this community, which I'm talking about, my district, District 25.
Thank you both. And I did want to sneak in one more question. We did get started a little late, so we've got a little extra time. And that is that in a couple, in several cases actually over the last couple of years, the governor has made the decision to remove elected officials from office. Do you believe the legislature needs to respond to that in any way? And that could be to express support for the governor or to try to rein it in. I don't want to suggest a way that I want you to answer, but I just wanted to know what you thought about that and where you think it should go and what the legislature's involvement should be. Mr. Vivaldi, if we can start with you.
Great question. I will answer that by saying that if someone has done something wrong, and I don't care what part it is, they need to respond to that. We just saw recently, and I'll use an example, what's happened in Seminole County with these ghost candidate. You guys have been reporting it quite well. Now we have an issue in Osceola County. This was a Democrat on this side. This is a Republican on that side. There's a lot of issues going on out there. And why they're going on, I don't know. But I'm not a career politician. And so for me, it's really important that the people who watch this and hear this understand that everyone it needs to be held accountable. And I think that it doesn't matter what party you're in. And if it means that the legislature or the Senate or the governor has to take a piece of that and say, listen, we need to, clean house. It doesn't matter. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And I just think that we could look at each one, take it separately, like the school board and what happened down in South Florida recently with that school board and the fact that they did not follow protocol when it came to protecting our children, which we didn't even get to touch today, about making sure that our schools are safe, right? That we have those SRO officers, all those kind of things that mean something to our community. But I will tell you that if anything is done wrong and if there's someone that is completely out of line with what their responsibilities are, then I think that, there should be some action taken by the legislature. And even though they've been voted in, if it's something that's going to affect that community as a whole, then someone needs to take action.
Senator Torres.
Well, thank you for the question. It's ironic because I've thought about this several times because I was present in the Senate when the governor suspended the sheriff from Broward County, and we had a special master on the case. And the special master ruled that he was not to be removed from his office, that the election of the new sheriff or whatever will change who was in charge. You're changing the will of the community, of the voter. And the governor is going over his authority. He's arbitrarily thinking I can remove you if I don't like, or I have an opinion of you that I don't like, and I want to say that you committed some kind of illegality. Like the same thing with the school board. They didn't commit a crime, but they got removed, and then he put his own people in. Remember that. He put his own people in there. This is what's happening. And the state attorney in Tampa, he's another one that the governor decided, well, I'm going to take you out of office and I'm going to bring you up on charges in the Senate. I hope to sit in the Senate again to review that. But let me tell you, this is an abuse of authority by this governor. This is not what we elect people for. And if they commit a crime, that's a different scenario. But just because you don't feel they're not doing it my way, and I'm going to give it you on a highway, no. And by the way, on the teachers, pay them better. That's the answer to the teachers, because that's what we're failing at, and keeping the teachers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And so we have, we could really seriously do another hour and a half and not even begin to scratch the surface of the wild and wonderful place that we all call home. But we do want to give you both a chance to make a closing statement. And before that, I would like to say to our readers, we will be making an endorsement in this race, and that is one of the purposes of this interview. However, we wanted to give you a chance to hear directly from the candidates as well. And we also encourage you to read our excellent coverage of this race, as well as visit the websites of both candidates, where you'll find so much more information that will help you make up your mind. Any one recommendation is just that, one recommendation, but the final decision is yours. And so we're going to give both these gentlemen a chance to make their closing argument as to why you should choose them. And we'll start with our challenger, Mr. Vivaldi. Thank you.
Well, once again, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Orlando Sentinel, for the opportunity to come and share. Thank you also to Victor Torres for accepting in this conversation. I think it's important. A lot of things have happened over the last few years. A lot of things have happened over the last 10 years. We see the future. I see the future positively. I see the state of Florida growing. I see that there are many needs that we have, from education to the economy, to making sure that our roadways are safe, our children are safe. But I think the biggest thing are the people. And I think that for a long time now, we've been hearing a lot of politicians, but we haven't heard the people. And I believe, and my race has always been about people over politics, making sure that we're listening. You know, I'm out there working. I'm out there talking to the community. I'm finding out what their needs are. And this district is predominantly Hispanic. And you know, I am from New York, but my parents are from Puerto Rico. I speak fluently Spanish as well. But to me, it's really important. This is not about a Spanish American issue. This is about District 25. This is about the lack of leadership that we've had, and that we need to work across party lines with everyone to make a difference. So I ask you respectfully on November 8th to support me, Peter Vivaldi, for State Senate. And again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And Senator Torres, your turn.
Well, thank you again. I really enjoyed this editorial questions that you asked me. I just want to say to everyone out there that's going to be listening to these videos, I've been a public servant all my life, 40 years, from the Marine Corps to a cop in New York, retired detective. I drove a school bus in Marion County to driving links here in Orange and Osceola County. So I've seen the growth. I live in the community. I know what the community is looking for and their needs. The bottom line is that for 10 years, I've been in the legislature, and I haven't given up on the community. You have a voice in me. You have a fighter in me. This is where I come from. People who know me, they know what Victoria stands for. They know that I don't give up. They know that on these bad legislation that are being presented by this governor and this Republican legislature, I have fought tooth and nail, even producing amendments that we haven't even touched on. Because guess what, folks? Some of these bills, we as Democrats have tried to change them with amendments. But guess what? My opponent's party has failed to accept these amendments. they constantly reject them and throw them out and disregard them. No, the bottom line is we need change. We need the voters to understand that if you don't change what's going on, it will continue. And we have had 25 years of Republican domination here in the state of Florida. We need to change that. And me as a veteran, I'm asking everyone out there, please come out and vote for Vic Torres for Senate District 25. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. I wish you both the best of luck and onward to November.